From where the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe, you are listening to Talk in the Night. I'm your host, Paranormal Phil, and later on in the show tonight, if we could get both guests on the show, we will do that. I've just been having Skype problems real quick. Just will not let me add the other caller for some reason. So we're going to get into that in a moment. But first, up on the Talk of the Night website, under the story of the day, using veteran benefits to pay for grad school. A former first lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps, Stephen Graves, is paying for his dual MD MBA program at Northwest University using the GI Bill. But the 32-year-old veteran who has served a tour in Afghanistan found the benefits don't stretch as far in medical school. They just do not work that well as far as paying for everything. So, I mean, I've gone without using my GI Bill. I went way too long without using it. And if you're just getting out of the service, you should definitely use it. Now, let's see what we got here, because it says it's connected to my other guests. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see. Yeah, it does not say it's connected. Okay. Marcus, you're still there. This is weird.
I don't think Marcus is there.
Yeah, I know. I do not know what it says. It's still connected on his end, which is weird. But we're gonna start with the show, and we'll figure out what's going on here. So, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right. Well, my name's Farooq. I am a veteran of the United States Army, did 6 and almost half years. I was enlisted in PSYOP, actually in the Army Reserve. Finished my time last September. In the meantime, I have a background in banking and investments. Have a bachelor's in political science, a master's in international relations. And currently, I am a real estate agent here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay, hold on 1 second. We're going to try and add Marcus to the call.
All right.
All right, Marcus, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, now it just cut off. Farooq, that's weird. I think I got it solved. Just waiting for Farooq to accept the call.
Okay.
All right, you there, Farooq?
Yeah, I'm here now on...
Okay, we got both of you on the show. We got it figured out. That was weird. I think it's this cold weather.
Gotta be.
Could be.
Nothing wants to work right. All right, so Farooq, you told the listeners a little bit about yourself. Marcus, you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. I got my start in the mortgage industry in 2005, working in the wholesale division of a credit union conglomerate company. That's kind of where I got a taste for the business. And then, of course, in 2008, whenever the market changed over, a lot of regulations came through that washed a lot of the what we call the predatory lenders out of the market. A lot of guys that were acting unethically didn't quite make the changeover. They weren't able to do things ethically, so they didn't stick around very long. So with the market being the way that it is now, it's kind of geared towards more keeping people with a little bit more fiduciary responsibility in there to protect the buyers themselves. And that's something that I've always kind of striven to do, to take care of buyers more than taking care of the banks in question. Main reason being, I prefer to treat customers the way that I would prefer to be treated, kind of that golden rule mentality. That's always been the way that I've tried to operate myself whenever it comes to the daily operations of how I practice in business. And that's always done me fairly well.
All right. So let's get into the whole thing about VA home loans and how veterans can get them and everything like that. So, of course, it's up to either one of you, whoever wants to answer, but what is a VA loan for anybody that does not know?
So Marcus might be able to go a little bit more because he does the lending side. However, every veteran, as long as you have met the qualifying ways to get the VA loan, you can use the VA loan. You typically get your a certificate of eligibility. However, if you've been in the Reserve or National Guard component, there are different ways to show it if you didn't serve active duty. And the way
that those are attributed, typically done by days of service and or by a service connected disability, just to try to caveat with what you're saying. So if you've got veterans that have a service connected disability, they are eligible in almost every case, minus those that had a lesser than honorable discharge. The guys with the general discharge under honorable conditions, they've got to appeal to have that access. And again, I think for the active duty personnel, I think the requirement is 180 days of active duty time, whether that's active duty component time, being activated through the reserves or otherwise, or having a service connected disability. But yeah, go ahead. You're right on the ball.
Oh, well, yeah. So I was just gonna say, you have to be able to meet these criterias, and then for veterans, it's it's one of the best gifts you can have, or one of the best benefits you can use. A lot of veterans just do not know about this benefit. I urge all veterans to use it, especially if you're going to be buying a home.
Let me kind of speak, if you don't mind, Brooke, about the benefits of a VA loan over FHA or conventional financing. One of the big benefits with the VA is there is no minimum credit score. Every minimum credit score that's put into place is put in place by the individual lender. So a lot of times you can find someone who's willing to write a VA loan for as low as a 580 to a 520 credit score. Of course, because the VA is not the one who is making that requirement, there is no requirement. The only requirement is based on the individual lender in question. Another added benefit is that there is no private mortgage insurance, meaning a lot of the times your private mortgage insurance, which of course is the insurance that you purchase to protect the lender in the case of a default, is based off of your credit score. So if you've got a lower credit score, a lot of times those private mortgage insurance now pushes that $150,000 to $200,000 house is now outside of your payment qualifications, simply because you add that into your escrow payment every month, and now it's pushing your ratios where now you no longer qualify. Another huge benefit is up to 4% of the closing costs can be paid by the seller. And of course, with a VA note, there is no early payoff penalty. There's several options out there for a VA cash out refinance. And then, of course, your VA streamline refi. One of the main requirements is that the property has to be a primary residence to use a VA loan. Now, granted, there are some caveats to that, but those are typically only under items where the military member, the service member, is under activation orders to have a permanent change of duty station, where they're relocating from, say, like Fort Carson, Colorado to Fort Hood, Texas, and they need to utilize whatever the remaining amount of their entitlement is to purchase what we'll call a second home, just for terminology's sake, but it truly will be owner occupied. So that's one way that we can kind of get around that stipulation. But again, it has to be an owner occupied property.
All right. So let's see. Let me get to my questions. Why should a veteran use or get a VA loan over a traditional loan?
Well, there's no requirement for a down payment. It is one of the big benefits. It allows you to have 100% financing with no mortgage insurance. That's probably one of the biggest evidence. And if you are a veteran with a service-connected disability, you also are exempt from paying that VA funding fee of 2.5%.
All right. And I want to make sure we got both of you still here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still here. I was going to say Marcus hit it right on the head. The other reason I would say is, as a veteran, it is once again, it is something that you, as long as you've done your due diligence, you have served and meet those criteria, it's the best thing you can use. I mean, otherwise you do have to go through a typical lending process. You do have to get your credit pulled. And, I've known veterans who have gone the FHA route and didn't qualify for the house they wanted, but the VA got, with the VA loan, whatever lender it is, helped them out more than FHA. And VA loans can also help you out. I actually have a good friend who used his VA loan, and he's also a USAA member now. Different banks have different ways they can help. USAA got him his own realtor and their own lending process through USAA too. So, there's another caveat in there too. But Marcus hit it on the head, and, I would always say that defer to lenders, especially if you got questions on how to qualify.
Yeah, because I know I use Navy Federal for my banking and everything like that. So I just wanted to find out about that.
Nothing against Navy Federal or USAA, but they do have kind of the more stricter side of the lines whenever it comes to their credit score requirements for borrowing. The last time that I checked, USAA required a 680 on a VA loan. At one point in time, they were at a 720. And not everybody will always fit those parameters. Not every veteran will fit those parameters. So just one thing to keep in mind, whenever you're looking for a VA note, sometimes it is a good option to pick up the phone and call some of your local loan officers and lending agencies and just check and say, hey, what are your guys' minimum credit score for a VA note? Because at least then you know whether you're going to be wasting your time or their time on either end of the spectrum, and it allows you to better educate yourself on the process prior to you committing to someone.
Yeah, because I know, like me, I've had a poor credit score for a while, and it's slowly building up and everything like that. Because I just never, once I got out of the service, I never really built up my credit, worked on building up my credit. I just never knew how, really, other than basically having a credit card, or renting your own place. But I was always taking care of my parents or something like that, and just never did that.
Well, like we talked about, last week whenever we spoke, that's one of the things a lot of veterans do is they're really good at fighting the fight that they can see. So whenever you start talking about, credit scores and maintaining things of that nature, a lot of times guys don't see it because they don't have visual on it. They don't know that they need to be maintaining it because they don't know any better. And that's why a lot of times whenever you start talking about lenders and realtors, a lot of times we'll have somebody that they can use in-house from time to time that actually explains how to go about looking at the individual credit report and saying, hey, these items look like they're fraudulent. These items look like they're duplicates. These items look like they could be disputed rather easily. And it's always good to have a good network of people put together. That way they can help, help network each other off of each other to help give your customers the best deal they can.
All right.
Definitely. And I would also piggyback on what Marcus was saying. If you're also looking in lending, get to know some people you might know either through work or anyone you might know who might be a realtor. Because a lot of realtors, like myself, I know probably 6 or 7 mortgage officers, and each one is different, and each credit limits they can go and risk levels. I know I have a friend who can go all the way down to basically like a 500 credit score and do an FH to do a loan. So it always helps to know, your loan officers out there.
All right. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Every loan officer that you meet is going to have what's called like a niche market, something that they are really good at. Some guys, they can do a 740 plus credit score all day long, but if you try to do anything lower than that, they're going to struggle with it. It really just depends on what their lending parameters are and what their underwriters will allow them to go down to. Others can go down to a 500, some can go down to a 520, some are 580. So not necessarily just because you got denied from one loan officer, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of the home buying process and stop trying. A lot of times it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, so they say.
Yeah.
If you can keep hunting that option and keep looking and keep looking and keep looking, sometimes that pays off. And the advantage is you're able to close on a house, whereas other people told you never could.
Yeah, because I think I checked on Navy Federal, I think last year it was earlier this year. I was checking to see what I would need to get a VA home loan, and because my credit score was under 600 at the time, they're like, no, you got to build up your credit more. And like you were saying, that some lenders like Navy Federal and stuff like that, they will not work with somebody with that lower score. But
well, and I'm not stating that Navy Federal and USAA isn't able to do a letter credit score loan. I'm just saying that in the past they haven't been able to. I don't know what their lending expertise is as of this point. I don't know what their guidelines are, what their credit criteria are. I can't speak to what their standards are. I can just speak to what they have been in the past. Not discrediting them as a lending entity. They do a great service to a lot of veterans every month whenever it comes to their insurance premiums, or whenever it comes to the auto loans or personal lines of credit. Those are aspects that I can't necessarily speak to. So, of course, not trying to speak poorly about them.
Oh, no.
Their niche market is more geared towards the better credit score buyer. Kind of like we talked about before. It's really good to have a wide spectrum of people that you're willing to talk to ensure that you're getting the best deal that you can. Now, granted, I'm not suggesting that you get a clear to close on one property, and then 4 days before your projected closing date, go hunt and try to see if you can't find a better rate. That's not the time to do it.
It might be
unless you want to piss off your lender and your real estate agent, that would be a terrible idea. But if that's your goal, then absolutely, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, no, I was just mentioning that because, like I said, I had under 600 at the time, and they was like 580 or something like that. And they said no, but now it's over 600 and building. So I just wanted to mention that they don't work with that lower, or at least the one I found didn't work with it. But you never know. Like you said, check around. All right, so let's get into the next question. What can the VA loan be used for? Is it just the house, or can it be used for other things?
Well, it really boils down on what type of VA note you're talking about. Like, there's certain VA notes are only allowed for purchases, for purchasing a new primary residence. Others are only allowed for a cash-out refinance or for a rate and term refinance. Now, with the cash-out refinance, you're taking equity out of your home and using that to pay off other debt or to pay, other charges. So with that in mind, you can really use a VA note for either one of the three. You can do a rate and term refinance, you can do an initial purchase or the purchase of a new property, or you can use it for a cash-out refinance. All three are viable options. But they are all tied to a piece of real property, to a piece of real estate.
Correct.
All right. So
Hey, Brooke, I'll let you field the next one, okay, buddy? I don't want to keep talking.
No. I'm fine because I
Yeah.
I know a lot more on just I'm here to help out anyway, and I can and to talk about stuff. I'm not an expert in the lending process, so I defer a lot to you for that part, but I'll talk anyway.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, since you want to defer over to Farooq here for a question here, here's a question for you. Should you use a real estate agent on a VA loan, or can you do it on your own?
So I would. Here's my thing: if you're a veteran and you're buying a home, or anyone, you don't have to be a veteran. If you're in the market, just speaking about buying a home, I would 100% say use a realtor. Now, it's interesting because if I go get a client and I ask, somebody like I've never met, somebody who I got through lead somehow, or maybe somebody approached me on Facebook, or somebody saw one of my signs somewhere or saw my business card, if they know nothing about real estate and they don't know anything about the process, one of the first questions I'll ask is, do you know how I get paid? Because a lot of people think that when you get a real estate agent, you're paying them the money. And in reality, if you're buying a home, you're not giving me $1. I'm getting it from a seller.
Yeah.
So if you're selling a home, I'm going to get my commission off of when you close. Now that being said, without going into too much detail, because there are of course legal ramifications. Like if you say I'm going to use you and then you don't use a realtor after there's like a buyout clause, or there's certain time frames where basically a realtor could sue for performance, for the need of being, you hire me and then you don't use me after a said time. I could sue for performance, and it's very hard to go down that route, and it doesn't happen. But anyhow, getting back to the meat and potatoes of it, I would say, definitely use a realtor, especially if you're a veteran, because realtors love helping out veterans because the VA process is pretty easy for a lot of realtors. At the end of the day, a realtor like myself, I love helping out regardless. So I'm helping out. I really love helping out my brothers because, we've all fought somehow, regardless if you deployed or not. We've all gone through. We've gone through it all.
Well,
we've all been there. We've all done it.
Let me caveat that. Let me caveat that statement and substantiate that a little bit for Brooke. Yeah. Here's one of the things that the easiest way that I answer that question. Do I need to hire a real estate agent? Well, if you're a real estate agent, no, you don't need to hire a real estate agent. If you are a real estate broker, no, you don't need to hire a real estate agent. If you are a run-of-the-mill American consumer, yes, you need to hire a real estate agent. Unless you are dealing with real estate transactions on a daily basis in the area that you are looking to purchase in, you need to know what that market is doing. The real estate agents have access through NMLS ID identification to be able to find what that zip code is doing. Is this person asking way too much for a property? They're allowed to go back through and do a comparative market analysis and compare that property to other properties in the area based on square footage, lot size, all of the above, and be able to tell you, that guy's overcharging a little bit, or no, or here, this is what I would offer with, or this is what I would counter with. Unless you are engaged in the real estate market on a daily basis, yes, you need a real estate agent.
I would also add on to that caveat, and Marcus hit it again, hit it square on the head. Another reason, if you know nothing about real estate, I would at least approach a real estate agent to get some information, because there's no harm in ever asking a question. I don't see any harm in, even if you're not going to use me, because I'd rather educate you, and then you either use me down the line or you tell somebody, hey, Farooq did a good job. Secondly, unless you are an attorney or you have a friend who's an attorney, attorneys can basically do what a real estate agent is, but they have to practice in real estate law, because the real estate law states that I can do any of the forms in the state of Texas, because that's where my license is, through Texas Real Estate Commission. I can use those forms and any other forms that are guaranteed through the state of Texas. Or if an attorney has written it up, and that's on the attorney's, that's under the attorney because that's what their education and expertise is in. But yes, I would,
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so unless you're a real
I've
estate
studied.
professional,
Go ahead.
if you're not a real estate professional or a bar certified attorney licensed to practice real estate law in the state of Texas, then yes, hire a real estate agent.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was about to say, I think I got 40 hours towards my real estate license when I was in the Navy, but just never finished it up. So I know a little bit about, but I know it, of course, over the years it changes. Of course, I think
you got
did
out
that course
you got out
back in 97.
Yeah, you separated out in 97, 98 time frame. I'm sorry, Bubba, but none of those are relevant anymore.
Yeah, I know. I've had people tell me that. It's like, you got to go through the whole thing again. That's like, yeah, I know, but but
yeah, you got to go through all that education again.
Well, the benefit is that education is never a negative aspect of life. Okay, so you still count yourself as an educated individual with the knowledge that you've gained. Unfortunately, towards the gains of licensure, sir, you would need to start over.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I know that. So what are the advantages of a VA loan?
So the big one, as Marcus has said, is the zero down and no primary mortgage insurance. Because once you have moved into your home, you've started paying. If you're not on a VA loan, 90% of the time you're probably going to be paying primary mortgage insurance, unless you paid with cash. Then you're on your own. But you're paying primary mortgage insurance or PMI. You're paying a certain amount of money towards that before it ever touches your mortgage. And Marcus could probably break down a little bit more on the mortgage side of what that actually means, but that's one of the best benefits that the VA loan has, is that there's no percent down, so you can go for all the way up to the guidelines of the regular part of the VA loan before you go to jumbo loans, and then you can really buy any kind of property with that.
Right.
All right.
The big benefit is the no private mortgage insurance, and just to try to expand on what he was just saying, there's certain things that go into what your monthly payment is going to be. You've got your principal, you have your interest, okay, you have your taxes, and your homeowner's insurance. On a FHA or a conventional loan, if you are over 80% loan to value, meaning what the loan is versus the appraised value of the property, you have what's called private mortgage insurance. So you add a fifth item to that monthly escrowed payment. Okay, so your private mortgage insurance could be anywhere between $118, or it could be as high as, it's all based on the loan amount and what your credit score is what it boils down to. So just by adding one additional item, you could push it to the point where that house that you and your spouse were looking at, well, now you can't qualify just because of that additional payment inside of, ancillary to that monthly payment with the private mortgage insurance. So with the VA, you don't have that private mortgage insurance. And again, there's zero money down, just like he was just saying. There's no prepayment penalty. That's another great aspect to it. And, of course, the big feature is, up to 4% of the closing costs can be paid by the seller. So whenever you've got an awesome real estate agent that can negotiate the closing costs paid by the seller, up to 4% of that can be paid by the seller.
Yeah. All right. We're at the first commercial break of the night, but we'll be right back with my guests, Farooq Khan and Marcus Weber. Are you a ghost hunter or paranormal enthusiast and need equipment to go out and investigate locations that have spirit activity? Well, GhostStop.com has all the equipment that you will need. They have a Boo Buddy ghost hunting kit for $169.95, or how about a Keep Calm and Ghost Hunt t-shirt for $19.95. Click on the banner ad at the top of the Talking Tonight website and get shopping today. GhostStop.com, your one-stop shop for all your ghost hunting needs. Do you have a paranormal team? Are you a small-time author? Do you have a radio show that you would like to promote? Is there anything that you would like to get the word out there about but don't have a big budget? Well, Talking Tonight has an opportunity for you to sponsor the show without breaking your wallet. Contact the show at talkingtonight@outlook.com or on the show's website or Facebook page for more details. Do you think you have a haunted or cursed object? Well, Nicole Gaspar does, and in her book Haunted Vessels and Cursed Objects, she talks about her continued paranormal and supernatural ghost encounters, haunted dolls, and other items that are supposed to be haunted or cursed. Pick up your copy today on Amazon.com. Okay, and we are back with my guests, Marcus Weber and Farooq Khan, as we talk about VA home loans. And before the break, we were talking about the advantages of using a VA loan. Now, how do VA loan interest rates compare to other loan types?
Marcus, I'll defer that to you.
They're fairly competitive with market rates. They typically try to stay within probably anywhere between half a point to what the normal conventional rate would be. Now, of course, there's so many different items that rule in on whether, what the interest rate will be. They call them adjustments. The state that you're going in has an adjustment for it. The buyer's credit score has an adjustment. If there's several adjustments within the score of it, with itself. The mortgage loan size, how much money you're putting down. I mean, there's so many different variables that control the interest rate as far as what the rate will actually be. But across the board, they're fairly competitive with what your FHA or what your conventional Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loans would be.
All right. And just type in something in the chat room here. So what does a real estate agent bring to the table when helping with getting the VA loan?
As far as how I help, so it's kind of interesting because as a real estate agent, I can't. There aren't many things I can recommend for product usage. That's kind of up to a buyer saying, what do I, money-wise, I have. I can do this. I can do that. Usually, I defer that to saying, first of all, I'll ask, what have you used previously? What kind of loan product have you used? Or what are you qualified for? Are you pre-qualified? If you're not, let's talk to a lender, and a lender can tell you. But then, there's always the questions I say, are you a veteran? Yes. Have you used the VA loan? No. How do you use it? I'll give you the information. I can find it for you, or I can give somebody who's qualified to talk more on the loans. Because once again, a lot of realtors, one, just don't know a lot about the lending side. I know quite a bit because I worked in banking previously, so that's where I know, a little bit here. But we can help anyone. I mean, especially when it comes to VA products, veteran products, because just because there's the VA loan, there's also, and Marcus can talk more about it, a VHAP, Veteran Land Board, but these are also, some of the products are only really geared to Texan veterans, so that it's, 1 in a million types of programs you can get too.
All right. You care to elaborate a little bit, Marcus?
Well, he covered a great deal of it. There's a lot of benefits out there to use a VA loan. There's very few reasons not to. If you're at the ability and you have the entitlements, which is how it's worded with the Department of Veteran Affairs, if you have that entitlement, there's really no reason not to use a VA loan to purchase a home, unless you're planning on using it as a second home or as an investment property. If you're not trying to use it for one of those two purposes and you intend on residing in this property, it makes the most sense to use a VA note.
All right. Now,
I was going to say one thing I do know. I was just going to say one thing is veterans may or may not know is, let's say you, and you can do this also towards FHA if I'm correct, Marcus. Correct me, please. Just because you don't have to be a veteran to be using the VA loan, in the sense that, let's say I'm Farooq, I'm a veteran, and I use my loan, but something goes wrong in my financial records, or something happens and I can't pay it off. A non-veteran can assume my VA loan and be paying that, in a sense, right, Marcus? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the assumption clause.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. I just, I about that. So
the assumption clause is permissible under federal regulation, but it is not federally required. The bank does not have to allow that note to be assumed.
All right. Yeah, because
that is an option out there. That is an option for a non-veteran to assume the loan, but that it's an option for the veteran themselves. But it doesn't mean that the bank has to abide by it. Okay,
so basically, say like a spouse, there's a non-veteran might or might not be able to assume the loan.
Well, in the state of Texas, it's community property, so that if you're married to a veteran and that veteran has a VA note on that property, that spouse's name is entitled to the property. They are on title for the property itself.
Okay, well, I guess kind of where I was going with that, probably worded it wrong, but like if they're going through a divorce or something like that, but I don't know where exactly I was going with that, but I just wanted to kind of get that information out there.
Yeah, that's true. You can a veteran's spouse is also listed as part of the entitlement option for the VA loan, as long as they are married. If they divorce, I want to say it breaks down to how the presiding judge rules on that case, of whether or not that entitlement is something that person can be granted in lieu of, not necessarily alimony, but, separation payments or otherwise. That's under the purview of the judge.
I do know somebody who had a situation like that. He's a veteran, and he went through a divorce, and so part of his loan, or the let's say the allotted, amount he could use for the VA, had to be assumed by another person, not his spouse, because when he divorced his spouse no longer had access to the veteran, the VA note.
Right.
of nullified off of it. Basically said you cannot use this. You have no claim to it either because, once again, as Marcus said, and Texas is a community property. Once that is filed in court and divorce is official, it's no longer community. You are you're an A and you're a B. There's no other. The B doesn't meet the A and the A doesn't meet the B. You are the sole owner of it, kind of like businesses. You're either sole prop or LLC or whatever kind of other business you are.
Right. And what more often than not, what happens with that is the home is sold, and any equity is divided between the two, and the mortgage note is paid off, and they both kind of go their separate ways. Or if the spouse keeps the home, they would have to refinance that note and get that veteran's mortgage paid off, and then of course split the equity if applicable. And then the spouse to the veteran has the property and their own new mortgage note that is not associated with the VA mortgage.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I just wanted to kind of clarify for somebody that might not know something like that. Now, how large of a VA loan can a veteran qualify, or does it depend on the lender?
Well,
say that again.
Now, how large of a VA loan can a veteran qualify for? Does it depend on the lender or the property size or credit or anything like that?
the guarantee is what what has been set for. Marcus, is it $435,015? Whatever is the amount right before you get to a jumbo loan.
Right, right.
So that's the amount you are guaranteed to have up to an amount of, that amount. Doesn't mean you're going to get up to that amount. Doesn't mean you can qualify and afford a $400,000 home. That's the amount that you are guaranteed to have, because it's called a VA, in colloquial terms, you call it VA guaranteed. But once you go beyond that, there are, again, other kind of products you can use for jumbo loans, because jumbos are $500,000 and above typically, or $435,000 and above. Marcus would know a little bit more about
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got my other line ringing right now, and I'm trying not to be rude. I'm trying to send that little text message out that says, "Hey, I can't talk right now." It's not working. I apologize.
I know the feeling.
I'm fairly good at multitasking. Unfortunately, whenever something jumps out in front of me like that, it's kind of hard not to address it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, because I was wondering, because I know, does it vary from state to state? Because, like, from where I'm from in Southern California, prices are outrageous out there. The house I grew up in, my parents paid $20,000 for it back in the 70s. And when they passed away and everything, it was appraised for almost $500,000 in a bad neighborhood and not that great of condition. So I was wondering if it varies from state to state.
Yeah, it's actually broken down almost by county as far as what the entitlement level is. But yeah, a lot of them have state individual rate systems as far as what the maximum is for each individual state. For a long time, the maximum amount was $417,000. Recently, it's gone up, but for quite some time, it was $417,000, and that was the max of it. Unless you were living in a place like California, where of course the cost of living was so much higher, it doesn't mean that you're buying more house.
Which that's kind of an interesting topic, if I may just kind of quickly enter in on, is people need to understand also markets. So as a realtor, me as a realtor, I'm the expert in understanding how real estate works comparatively to other areas. So like California, and so if you're talking about Texas real estate, our state, the state of Texas, if you were to think of it if you're looking at a map, or sometimes you can think California is kind of like an EKG rating. It's up, down, like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Kind of how their market runs. You have super highs and super lows. A house that may be worth, let's say, $100,000 today, in a year it can be worth $1 million for some reason, for some odd reason, in some really bad neighborhood, and then it could be worth only $100,000 in a really good neighborhood for nothing. Versus in Texas, our market pretty much stays pretty level. We hit bumps here and there, but even when Marcus was saying when he came into the industry on the lending side, when there was subprime and predatory lending, Texas went right around between 2008, 9, and 10, the crash and the Dodd-Frank era. The market in Texas pretty much stayed pretty stable. I mean, you had fluctuations, but really, it wasn't like California. However, in Texas, Texas A&M, the college, has the Texas A&M Real Estate Institute for research, basically, and statistics show that our market is trending slowly to kind of get towards what California had, because people are moving from California to Texas.
Okay, I'm getting some feedback there. I don't know if one of you got the show on or what. But I'm kind of hearing myself. I don't know if it's me or what. I'm just over here.
I'm clear as
no, sir. I haven't moved a muscle since we started.
Okay, no, I was just wondering if you guys were playing the show in the background, because like I said, I'm just getting that feedback. It might be my headset. I'm just checking my levels on my mixing board here real quick. Just to make sure. All right. I don't think I hear it anymore. All right. So, now we were talking about the loan amount and everything, maximum and stuff like that. Do you need to occupy the home that you are buying, or well, I think you guys covered this earlier, but just want to make sure. Do you have to occupy the home that you're buying, or can you use it for investment property, like rent it out? Like here in Texas, there's duplexes and stuff.
No, a veteran, for a VA loan, you would have to own or occupy. That is a requirement of the VA note to purchase. It has to be an owner-occupied property.
Okay. Let me get down to my questions here real quick, because I got a ton of them. Just try not to overlap too many things and that you guys have already answered.
Unfortunately, pushed a bunch of information out in a short period of time, so I apologize if we didn't clarify enough.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, if I notice we're not covering it enough, then I'll go with that question. I just don't want to push the same information too much, is what I'm saying. Now, what effect do credit scores have on the loan approval?
To be totally honest, they're the deciding factor of whether you get approved or not.
Yeah.
I mean, your credit worthiness is probably one of the biggest things that a lender looks at. I mean, they look at that. They look at your debt to income ratio, your job history, your performance. But if you've got terrible credit, you're not more often than not, you're not going to get a pristine interest rate. So that could be a huge deciding factor in whether you get approved or not.
Yeah, because I know, like with a regular personal loan that I had and everything like that, because my credit score approved, I was able to get a better rate on that personal loan. So is that basically how it would say, like you try to go for a loan, VA home loan for when you got a lower credit score, and say you get it at a higher rate, can you go back and refinance it for a better rate?
Absolutely, but you have to remember that there's always a cost incurred with that. Every time you go to refinance, of course, there's going to be cost incurred.
Okay. And I just want to get both of your guys' take on everything like that, because I don't want to have just one and not the other one answer questions. So
No. Yeah. You can absolutely. Now I can say this from my experience in banking. You can absolutely have one loan product, and let's say it's as a number 5.25% as an APR, and your percentage rate. And let's say your credit continues to improve, and then let's say you went from a 500 to 650 in a year, just for example. And that same loan, let's say you have $10,000 and it's at that rate. Well, now you're like, well, I'm paying more, I'm paying often, I'm paying even early, paying above. I want to lower that rate. You can always negotiate that. If you think about it, at the end of the day, the bank doesn't care how it gets its money. It wants it somehow.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay them quicker, kudos to you, and kudos to them, because then they'll think, well, I can retain you because I can continue giving you things, giving you more products. Because, like I said earlier on when I introduced myself, I started in the banking industry. I started on credit side, credit card lending. I have plenty of clients who call in and ask questions about can they lower the rate. And, I'd have a calculation that would look at their debt-to-income ratios and what their rate is currently, and it's a yay or nay. Well, sorry, we can't do it right now. Try again later. So, yeah, I would say it's always a good thing. If you know your credit's gone up or you've been working really hard at it, never an issue to not ask for a lower rate and to try and renegotiate it, because it helps you at the end of the day, too. And especially on a home loan.
all right.
I've yet to see somebody be able to call in on a mortgage loan and renegotiate those terms as far as the interest rates go. There's been some instances where I've seen them go and do what's called a principal adjustment payment. Like, say you received a lump sum check because a family member died or something like that. I've seen them throw that lump sum payment at the principal owed on the property and re-amortize it based on the concurrent schedule as far as how many monthly payments are left. But I haven't seen anybody call in on a mortgage loan and be able to get those interest rates adjusted just based on the phone call. But absolutely, if you have, that's outstanding.
Okay. All right. And we're going to try and get in one or maybe two more questions before the top break at the top of the hour. But if somebody gets pre-approved for a loan, should they stay with the lender that issued the pre-approval, or can they go somewhere else?
I would say, just in my experience, because I actually had a client recently who was pre-approved, and they were a veteran. They were pre-approved through one lender, and in order to buy this home, let me rephrase that. Let's say you get pre-approved, for instance, just by Wells Fargo as a lender, and let's say you go buy a home at Toll Brothers Inc., which is they're one of the most luxurious builds you can buy, really expensive, and your Wells Fargo loan says, or lender says, yeah, you're pre-approved for $1 million. Well, you go to that home, that builder, and you say, I really like this home. I really want to build it. I want to buy it and I want to build it. Okay. By the way, Marcus, I want you to, if you can, if you're willing, go talk to my lender internally, because he can give you points off and he can give you a different rate. So, you can be pre-approved by one, but in the real estate world, you can go to another lender and somebody else can say, here's a better one too.
There's nothing that contractually obligates you to use one lender versus the other. One of the things that, like what he's talking about with builders specifically, is that the builders, from what I've noticed, they've got more perks because they've got a little more skin in the game, so to say. They've got more. Their profit margin is much higher than what anybody else's is. The home builder makes more money off of selling a home than what the real estate agent makes by far, more than the loan officer makes by far. So what I've seen them do is they'll come in and say, hey, look, you're approved through, say, Wells Fargo, like this scenario. You're approved with Wells Fargo up to $1 million. Hey, how about we go ahead and if you use our lender, we'll go ahead and throw in that 26,000 gallon pool that you were looking at. We'll go ahead and throw that in, or we'll go ahead and we'll upgrade this kitchen to everything that you were wanting to have it done in the first place. They'll toss some upgrades at them to incentivize them to use them. And as soon as that comes across the table, I'm like, all right, cool, y'all go ahead, because I can't beat that deal. Yeah. Our interest rates might be comparable. They might even have a slightly higher interest rate than what I'm able to offer them. But I can't offer you $50,000 worth of upgrades.
Yeah.
So just because you get a pre-qualification letter from one lender does not mean you have to stay with that lender for the entire duration of time. What I would ask is that you go ahead, like, just because I work the lending side of it, if you're going to go ahead and either shop the rate around, or if you're going to go talk with a builder, at least let me know.
Yeah. That's common courtesy right there.
Well, yeah, but that's not, just because it's common courtesy doesn't mean it's common practice, sir.
Yeah, true. All right.
I say that's similar to saying common sense isn't common, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear. I think
I was just saying, it's like saying common sense isn't common, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes not, especially in the world we live in today. All right. Let's see. I think I got time for one more question before the break. And I lost track of where I was. What is the VA funding fee, and does a veteran have to pay it?
The VA funding fee is essentially what the veteran pays to get the civil protection of the VA to protect that mortgage note. So the VA funding fee is what pays, instead of paying for a private mortgage insurance, you pay the VA funding fee. However, if, like I said earlier, if you are a service-connected veteran, you do not have to pay the VA funding fee. You are VA funding fee exempt, and it's listed and annotated right there on your certificate of eligibility through the Department of Veteran Affairs.
All right. Now, since I am a disabled veteran, I wanted to ask this real quick before we go into the break. Is there a certain amount, percentage rate on the disability, or for that to be not having to pay the VA funding fee?
Not necessarily the percentage of the disability. It is more connected to whether it is service connected or not.
Okay.
Although in the state of Texas, because that's where I'm licensed to operate, in the state of Texas, if you receive, I believe it's over a 70% rate of disability, you pay less in property taxes. They take away certain tax rates.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get back into more about VA home loans and everything after the commercial break. And I'm not too sure if how we're going to be able to take the calls, but if you go to Spreaker.com and pop in the chat, I'll take questions there. I'll mention that after the commercial break. But we'll be right back with my guest as we talk about VA home loans.
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's RadioGuestList.com. Sign up today. It's free.
If you like finding out about different things in the paranormal field, such as ghost stories, haunted locations, UFOs, cryptozoology, and much more, well, check out Into the Paranormal on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Videos are posted once a week. Are you a veteran, live in the North Texas area, and looking to buy a house using your VA loan? Well, check out Farooq Khan's website at iconsellhomes.com or email Marcus Weber at marcusweberl@outlook.com. Both can be found linked up on the Talk of the Night website. To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-5561. And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guests, Marcus Weber and Farooq Khan. Now, during the commercial break, Marcus was saying something, but of course, with the music in my ears from the commercial break, I wasn't quite able to hear it, but I know he wanted Farooq to cover something. I care to ask Farooq what you wanted him to cover.
I was just saying that a lot of the questions thus far have been kind of geared towards the mortgage side of the house. I was just wanting to make sure that he had the availability and the option to talk about, what the role of the real estate agent was, and where they could really strengthen the veteran as far as how gaining representation and what kind of things to look for, especially in today's market.
Okay, care to elaborate for?
Yeah, sure. So, one for me especially, being a veteran, it's always, exciting to talk to another veteran, get to hear your stories, and to know what's bringing you to Texas, especially to where I'm in. I live in Arlington, but once again, my license is good for the whole state for any type of real estate. So that includes farmland, commercial, industrial, and residential. Doesn't mean I practice all, but I can do all as long as I have the expertise into it. So it's the more I can find out from a buyer, especially a veteran, the more I can know how to gear things towards a purchase and how I can help you out too. So, for instance, if I knew somebody was a veteran, and we talked about this right before commercial break about disabilities, I know if you're a Purple Heart recipient in the state of Texas, you are exempt from certain taxes in general, which means if you didn't know that, well, then I could give that kind of information to you. Just it's information I know. Or, if you're going to buy a home and you are a veteran, I could, if you want to buy a certain type of home or there's something you want installed in a home, especially if you're buying a new home, there's so many products for veterans. It's easy to know that telling me I'm, selling somebody, hey, I'm a veteran or I'm disabled, because that way I can go to a lender like Marcus or anyone else I know and say, hey, Steve is a veteran. He is disabled. This is what he's looking for. This is his pre-qualification from somewhere. Can you qualify him too? however that's helpful. The more information I can get out of somebody, the easier it is for a real estate side, and then the more I can negotiate also. Which is interesting because when my wife and I bought our home about 4 years ago, our realtor had told us, had advised us, if you write a letter to people, sometimes it shows people that you're serious about it and shows kind of like the sentimental part instead of, I'm just somebody putting money up for a home, And I put, I'm a veteran, and sent it to a family, and they loved it that I was a veteran and I'm a family man. So that's my piece. If anyone's got questions, you can always ask.
Because I lost my whole train of thought there. I blame it on this cold weather, the cold snap that we are going through right here in North Texas. That for the brain fart. But now you mentioned about the perks of that a real estate agent can help with. Can the lender also help get those same perks?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like we talked about before with the VA funding fee being there for disabled veterans with service-connected disabilities, that's a huge benefit there. You're looking at 2.5% savings right there on the cost of the loan. That's a 2.5% savings right there. In addition to, that's something that most buyers don't realize is available because, again, like we talked about at the onset of the show, if you're not doing this on a daily basis, you don't necessarily know what products and changes have come down. I mean, we're looking at probably one of the largest increases in VA disability in the last probably 15 years or so under the new administration. We're looking at a I believe it's a 2.6% increase is what they're rated for right now. So we've got, disability rates are going to be going up for a lot of veterans, which could help them qualify, whereas before they did not. And then of course you've got, certain aspects on the lending side where we're able to look at a product and say, okay, look, based on this person's disability, we can set things up through escrow where, because we know they're disabled, they're going to be paying less in property taxes. So that's another thing we can set up through title whenever they close for the house. There's so many different evidence that, especially having someone who is a veteran to help another veteran go through the home buying process. We all know the term fairly affectionately well, the break it down Barney style, break this down in the simplest format to explain it, explain it to me where a 5-year-old can understand this. We can help make sense of all this because there's a lot of information that gets pushed out throughout the home buying process between applications, between, submitting things to underwriting, getting conditions back with processing, prepping title work, evaluating the appraisal, evaluating the contract, all these different aspects of it. We're the veteran community is really good about talking to the veteran community. That's something that I've always loved about service members is, we don't mind taking the extra time to explain things. Like some people out there in the civilian sector, they get kind of irky. They get kind of angry if you have to explain things more than once. I'm exactly the opposite. I don't mind explaining it because if I explain it properly where, as many times as it takes for you to get the information and you understand it, then I know that I've done my job.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just typing in the chat room because somebody had a question, but it doesn't pertain to VA loans, so I don't want to cover that. I just wanted to let them know. So they basically wanted to know about the whole let's see, where was it? I guess the comment got deleted or something like that, but it was something about what you saw in service. I'll leave that for Friday night when veterans can call in and talk about their experiences and stuff like that if they want to. But so talking about disability ratings. Now, what kind of impact does those disability ratings have on the VA loan?
Oh, they've got a great deal because, for one, you can help substantiate your income where you can qualify more easily.
Yeah. All right. Now, let's see. Now, how can one... I'm trying not to leave Farooq out here. I'm trying to find a good question. What type of property can be purchased or refinanced with a VA loan?
I believe residential only. I could be wrong. Nobody's ever asked me that question. Marcus, do you know if there's, I guess farmland might be able to, because you do reside on a farm? I don't know.
Well, if you wouldn't use a VA loan for that, you would go through the Texas Land Board for that. Anything over 12 acres, the VA won't oblige.
Well, there you go.
Is my understanding of it.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, as far as my education and understanding is that the VA loan only covers residential land anyhow. So if you're going, like Marcus said, beyond a certain size, then you'd have to go through the land board. Which then again, that brings up another product called a VHAP, and Marcus could talk a little bit more about that too. VHAPs and other types of loans for veterans. VA loan, of course, is the main target of what we're talking about, but there's plenty of kind of products that veterans can get as far as lending in Texas.
Right.
Yeah, because I know here in Texas there's plenty of land, whereas out in California it's pretty much smushed together unless you're out in the boondocks, but or out in the desert, one of the two. But I know, like me, I would love to have quite a bit of land, at least 20 acres and stuff like that. And I was wondering about something like that. Can the VA loan work for that, or would I have to go through somebody else?
I would have to look at the regulations on that specifically to be able to tell you definitively. I do know that for the service-connected disability adjustment to your tax rate, I know that for a fact to be 12 acres or less.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know because I'm sorry. I just wanted to know because I wanted to let people know that if they're a veteran looking at more than 12 acres, what possibly they can do.
Veteran Land Board would most likely be the best option.
Veteran Land Board is a great resource too, even for real estate, because there's a lot of information on there just about real estate, because it is still a organization for veterans to look into information.
All right. Now, of course, I'm trying not to get too much in the mortgage lending and financing thing here. So, can a veteran refinance a non-VA loan with a VA loan?
You mean use the collateral of a VA loan for refinancing, or?
Yeah, well, say they got a loan through a regular lender, or not using their VA home loan, but they want to refinance it with a VA.
Talking about using conventional or FHA financing to purchase the home initially and then refinancing into a VA loan?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe so. No. VA loans, from what I understand, VA loans are VA loans from the time they start, meaning from the purchase date up until they are refinanced to another VA loan, whether it's a refinance for a rate and term because the interest rates have gone down, or for a cash out purpose. But VAs are typically VAs and VAs only. I've never seen one go from conventional to VA.
Okay, and now how about the other way around? If say, I know it's unlikely, but just want to throw out play devil's advocate, if I will.
There's times where those are viable options. They are not often. Let's say, for instance, you purchased a home on a VA note, and interest rates have gone down, and there's not really a benefit to having no private mortgage insurance because, of course, your property value has gone up in the state of Texas over the last several years. So now you don't have that mortgage insurance, looming over your head. So you don't have to really worry about that. Sometimes the interest rates are a little bit better on the conventional side. Like I said before, they're typically fairly close, but there are instances where they are lower to go conventional. And if you've got a decent amount of equity in your property, that could be a viable option for the buyer. But the thing is, on those types of really specific questions, it's really hard for me to be able to answer that question definitively without looking at the profile of what it is we're actually looking at. You can't look at apples and oranges and compare the two and expect to get a decent answer out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just so much specificity that goes into playing into that, whether a VA loan is better than a conventional loan. That'd be something I'd have to actually look at the numbers on and qualify.
Okay. Now, Farooq, what are some of the fees that a real estate agent would charge when helping a veteran get a home through a VA loan?
The only other, there aren't necessarily fees I would charge. It's just a commission. And, it depends. Because the thing with real estate is nothing's set in stone, and I can't say let's take you, Phil. Let's say you say, hey, Farooq, I'm a veteran, and I want to use you. Do you have a set fee? I can't say a set fee, and I can't have a set I can't have like a set type of commission because it's against the law for me to say, well, I'm only going to charge you. Okay, so here's the thing. Everyone knows that typically, there could be a 3% on a buyer, 3% for a seller. Not saying it always is, but you can have 2% for a sell and 3% for a buy, 1% for a sell, 3% for a buy, whatever it is. So I can't say I'm going to be 6% today and be 3% tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's really the only thing. I don't charge fees. It's just more of I get paid on commission regardless.
Yeah.
That's how I paid.
Well, and the thing that I always enjoy about working with real estate agents, they will always negotiate their rates. But the thing is, there's some that won't at all. Like, hey, I'm willing to negotiate my rates, or no, I'm not. The thing is, it's up to them whether they do or not. A lot of times, that's due to contractual obligation with whomever their broker is. Like on my side of it, my rate. My commission structure has to be legally, it has to be the same on every deal, because otherwise I could be accused of what's called predatory lending practice, where, I charge this person this rate and this person this rate for an identical program. I could be sued for predatory lending practice because of that. So for on my end of it, and for a lot of times, the same thing applies to real estate agents, where you can't be sitting there adjusting your rate for the friends and family discount, or things of that nature, because it really opens you up to a lot of damages that could be occurred. I was going through a continuing education course with the Champion School of Real Estate there in Plano last year, and one of the examples they gave was there was a couple that walked in, and these are employees of CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau out of D.C. They came in and they sat down. And they said, "Yeah, we want to talk to one of your loan officers." Oh, okay, very cool. Of course, they were undercover, and they said, "Okay, would you guys like a coffee or a pastry or something like that?" And another couple came into the same branch a month or so later. This couple happened to be an African-American couple, but they came in the afternoon. They were offered, a bottle of water or a pastry or, whatever, but they were not offered coffee. And because they weren't offered the exact same services, they opened themselves up to a punitive damage lawsuit because they did not make the same offering to every consumer that came in.
Wow, that's pretty. I wouldn't want to be on that end, on the receiving end of that lawsuit.
Yeah,
I'll just put it that.
No.
And even so,
there were several commas in that settlement statement. I'll just put it to you that way.
I was going to say, to kind of caveat what Marcus is saying, as a real estate agent, so you have to think of it this way. As a real estate agent, I am not employed by any one person. I'm a 1099 as far as taxes go, so I'm my own boss. I have a broker. The reason I have a broker is because the brokers, one, have the errors and emissions insurance. So brokers they bring the parties together. If you think of it that way, that's a broker. It's bringing two parties together. I can't be like Farooq Khan Realty, and that's me alone 100% unless I have a broker license. I have to have the broker license to be brokered. However,
I do know that much about my little studies into the real estate thing. I know that much.
But as far as it comes to commissions, they're always negotiable. I mean, I currently have clients who I'm doing a listing and buying with them, and I tell them, if you're listing with me and buying with me, I will, I'll do less of a commission on one end and do a normal commission on the other because I'm helping you out. And there's nothing wrong telling somebody you'll drop a commission or change a rate, or some realtors give cash back to their clients. I know of I don't personally know agents who do that, but I know there are agents who will go out and say, well, that you've used me now, I can towards closing give you $1,000 in cash or whatever. It's completely up to that agent too.
Well, and that's one of the differentiating factors between the mortgage side and the realty side. Of course, due to a lot of the predatory lending practice that we spoke about beforehand, a lot of laws were in place to protect the consumer, and that's one of the ones is on the lending side is our fees have to be identical. We have to charge apples for apples. An apple gets the same charge, an orange gets the same charge. Everything has to be the same across the boards. Otherwise, it opens you up to it. So,
all right. So we do have some questions in the chat room. How long do you? And of course, this person I think tuned in late to the show, and I'm pretty sure we covered it at the beginning. But how long do you have to be in the military to get a VA loan?
In theory, you could, and Marcus may know, but it's all up to the VA, of course, one, and you have to meet those criteria. So, for instance, I'm a reservist. I know as a reservist, the only way I qualify for the VA guarantee loan, as it's called, once again, or VA note or VA loan, however you want to call it, is either you do your 6 years as a reservist and serve honorably and leave the Army Reserve once you get your discharge as honorable or general, which would be honorable, general under honorable conditions, or you serve your active duty up to, I forgot the time frame you said, Marcus.
It's 180 days. 180 days.
180 days. Or if you're a reservist and you were, let's say, disabled, then you can qualify that way. Or if let's say you're a reservist and you went active duty, let's say for a deployment. Well, that deployment time counts as those 180 days, so you qualify then
right,
too.
Because you have to remember, as a reservist, whenever you are deployed, you are put on active status, so you have activation orders.
Correct.
So that all of that deployment as a reservist goes toward active time.
If you fall into one of those categories like myself, who was a reservist and never deployed, you have to do your 6 years and actually qualify for it, or fall under one of those other categories. You deploy, or you get disabled, and the VA, then you get the VA disability on top of that.
Okay.
Right.
Or you decide to go active duty, and then you go in that category then.
Yeah, because I did my 3 years, and it just wasn't for me. Although I did have fun out in the Mediterranean, especially on the weekends, reeling in 600-pound tunas. or skeet shooting off the back of the fantail, but that was interesting. So the next question is, can a family inherit a VA loan from a veteran family member?
Oh, man, that is a very specific question, and not a very easy one to answer. That really will boil down to, I assume we're talking about the state of Texas.
Well,
that would
we can talk about Texas. Of course, everybody in their own state would have to find out about that from like a mortgage lender or a real estate agent. But
well, that would most likely have to be reverted through for an attorney to answer that type of question, because that's you're getting into inheritance law. It's got to go through a probate period. It's got to. I mean, there's so many different things that come into play for an inherited piece of property. It's really hard to answer whether or not that note would be assumable, that mortgage would be assumable or not.
Definitely, I would say, to cover myself, trying to say it as nice and politically as I can. CYA, I would defer to an attorney because, even Case in point. Case in point. I got you. Yeah. Case in point. When I worked at Bank of America, I had a client who came in and was declared deceased. At the time when I worked at Bank of America, estate planning team had declared this gentleman deceased. When I called, I said, I need these funds liquidated and available. And they said, he's deceased. I said, nope, that gentleman's looking me right in the eye. I see him. I see his date of birth, 1932. He is a World War II veteran. I don't need to tell you any more about this gentleman. He is right here in front of me in the flesh.
Yeah.
They're like, well, so when his wife died, somehow, because it's community state, everything got seized up in the bank. So credit cards got seized, loans got seized, everything basically went on freeze and had to go through a probate judge. So unfortunately, I had to tell his daughter, who was his caretaker, you have to go to a probate judge to get it probated again because there was no will at her death. And even though community state suggests that it goes straight to your partner, your legal partner, your person you're married to in Texas, something had happened somehow in the court, so she had to go to court to talk it out, and the judge said, nope, he gets all rights, so, there's no inheritance, and he automatically gets everything his wife passed on for. So in the case of inheriting, I would go to an attorney just because attorneys are geared to talk about things of that nature. Otherwise, go to the court and try and talk to a probate judge about it.
Okay,
exactly.
That was somebody that hasn't been a veteran just wanting to know about something like that.
And that's a great question too, because besides my expertise, I wouldn't know how to answer that, and I would say consult an attorney.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, so we are at the last commercial break of the night, but if you have a question for my guest, go to Spreaker.com, sign up for a free account, follow the show, pop in the chat room, say hi, and ask your question there. Or if you got Skype, call Talk in the Night, and we'll get you on the air to ask the question. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. When you go to EvaFulton.com and mention Talk of the Night, the first 10 buyers will receive 10% off her book, Welcome to My People Garden. And one lucky caller will get a free soft cover copy of her book. Just click on the link on the Talk in the Night website and it'll take you right to her website. Are you a veteran and want to know about financial services, opening your own business, or just about leadership in the community? Well, connect with Leisha West at westfinancialgroup.com, which is linked up on the Talk in the Night website. Do you want to know about the political party that is for veterans and all the people of the U.S.? Well, check out VPOMN.org or Facebook.com, Veterans Party of Minnesota, which is linked up on the Talk in the Night website.
Sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules, my life destroyed.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-5561. And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back for the last segment of the show, and I'm just trying to clarify a question here in the chat room. I guess I mean he's asking, can a member of the family meet the VA home? I was trying to clarify if he meant like, can a family member, say not like a spouse or anything like that, get a VA loan?
No.
Only assumable.
No.
Right?
Say again?
I was saying you can only assume a VA loan as a non-veteran. You can't have you don't
Correct.
get the benefit
Correct.
of it.
You can't draft a new VA benefit on a new property without being a veteran or being the spouse of a veteran.
Okay. Now, what if a veteran has used their VA loan before? Can they get another one, or is it a one-time only thing?
Oh, no. You can continually use a VA loan. Say you use your VA loan to purchase a home, you purchase that home and decide you want to go buy another house. You can sell that property or pay that other mortgage off, and then you have 100% remaining of your entitlement value. You can go and get a whole new VA loan and start all over if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering, because I know, like, the GI Bill, it's, after 12 years of service, it's gone. And I know, like, VA loans, they never expire. Once you've qualified for not become eligible for a VA loan, I don't want to say qualified, but become eligible because of service and everything like that, it doesn't expire. So I just wanted to find out about that.
Well, with your VA educational benefit, I want to say you've got 36 months to use that benefit. That benefit for education is something that you can give to a dependent. You can grant that to your children if they need it, or to a spouse if they need it. But the VA loan benefit is only usable by either the veteran or the spouse, and typically it's a deceased spouse, meaning the veteran has deceased and their surviving spouse is going to use the entitlement, and they have not remarried.
Now, I know also, speaking on what you're talking about, Phil, with the VA education loan, as a quick sidetrack, there is legislation currently that was passed this past year. I don't know how far it's gotten into production of actually being passed, called the VA Forever.
I think the VA Forever. I think the VA Forever. I think that passed the House, but it has not passed the Senate yet. But I'm not 100% certain on that.
Well, I got
that's
guess.
I'm sure.
I was going to say I got a guest coming on Thursday for the Veterans Party of Minnesota, political party for veterans. So probably ask that question that night. But
yeah, you may know, but I would definitely look into that because I know the law, they've been trying to change it because if you think about it, 3 years and then you're done with your veteran, the VA, the education, it just doesn't seem right to me.
yeah,
I mean, I could be like any other veteran and give a plethora of reasons why I think even though we've served and done our time, we should still have our benefits, but the government throws it away.
Well, like I tried to use, what was it? I'm trying to think of how, because I'm disabled, there is another thing for veterans to continue using their education benefits after 12 years, at least out in California. And everything, I just can't think of the name of it, but because I wasn't rated high enough on the disability rating that I could not use that. But we're getting away from the whole VA home loan thing. So let's get back into the questions about VA loans. What service is not eligible for a VA loan?
I don't know that there is a branch of services that's not eligible. I think it really boils down to whether you met the service criteria, not necessarily the branch. And again, it boils down to that 180 days of active duty time or a service-connected disability.
I think I don't know if the public health, can they get those? They're not actually veterans, are they? Do they get it? That's the only one I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Because I know they get, like, they're all commissioned, so, I just don't know if they get the VA loan because they're not veterans in the sense of the DOD. But
I can't answer that question with any specificity.
That's something I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, because, I think the way I was thinking of the question is like for active duty or reservists or National Guards or something like that.
Any veteran can get it as long as they qualify for it.
All right. So as far as, do you have to go through a specific lender to get the VA loan, or can you go through any lender?
Well, like we talked about before, a lot of lenders, almost all lenders, have a VA program. But the biggest conditioning factor for those is what their credit score requirements are. Because, again, the VA does not have a minimum credit score requirement, but the individual lenders do. So it's really about finding a lender that has the credit score requirement that matches what you have as the buyer to be able to best represent you for that mortgage note.
All right, and let's see, just what type of repayment options are available for veterans that get a VA loan?
The repayment options as far as what the terms can be?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Typically, you see a lot of 15-year or 30-year fixed-rate mortgages, and of course, those are paid every month up until the loan is paid in full. Another huge benefit to using a VA loan is there is no prepayment penalty, meaning you can pay it off as soon as you possibly can, and you can't be penalized for paying it off early.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with Marcus.
Oh, okay. Now, say like the veteran is not married or anything like that, and the veteran dies. What happens to that VA loan?
I don't think I
Still
understand.
there?
Oh, okay. Wanted to make sure. I didn't hear nothing, so I wanted to make sure you guys were there.
No,
Yeah,
I just don't
it
understand.
sounded like the phone cut out there for a minute. I was just making sure it didn't drop before I started using any profanity.
Leave it up to a sailor to do the profanity. We get you heard the term mouth of a sailor,
First,
but
sailor. You may have the mouth of
Yeah.
a sailor, but the Army taught me lots of words too.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Well,
As far as to the question, if a service member dies while the with no family members, is that what you were saying?
yeah, pretty much something like that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that bank, that the VA doesn't really have anything to do with that side of it. The bank in question, whoever holds that mortgage note, would essentially gain access to the property if they don't have any wills or any heirs apparent, and no family members to give it to or grant it to, and they don't have a will that specifically says, hey, the equity of this property is to be granted to, whatever charitable organization or otherwise stated in the will. If there's not a last will and testament or an heir apparent, that property would become the property of the bank.
All right.
yeah, I would just go to the bank and then probate whenever it,
Right.
All right. So now as
Actually,
far
let me
as
rephrase
like,
that.
go ahead.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. I was going to say, it would probate, in my experience, from the banking side, it would go to probate, and then from probate, when you get into real estate, then, it would go to a public auction, and the auction would deem, this property was, you can go see that at the courthouse or public records. This house is for sale at this amount because there's no heir apparent anymore. It's public land now because the bank sent it over to the state. That's the only way I would see it going somewhere else.
All right. Now, can a veteran, build a home with a VA home loan? Because we talked about purchasing one that's already there, but can one use that VA loan to build a home?
100% yes. You can use your VA loan. And so like, to give an example, I live in Arlington once again, and in the Arlington area, there is no other building area except for North Arlington and the development called Viridian. Outside of Arlington, there's no new builds. You'd have to go south to Mansfield and go to another community. If you're out in Plano and Frisco, there's brand new building all the time. McKinney Richardson, heck, even in Houston, all cities, there's lots of buildings. So, but yes, getting to the point, you can use your VA loan for a new build property, meaning the land was bought by a builder, let's say David Weekley, and you bought a David Weekley home, branded home, and you put it right there. Or, you went to another neighborhood and saw a village builder and you like their home and you like their product, you can use that loan and say, hey, we're going to use the VA loan. And they can absolutely use it. But of course, like how Marcus and I had talked earlier, builders will try to incentivize by saying use our lender, and they'll still give you the VA loan, but try and use our lender too. So,
all right. Now once you get a VA loan, can you take out or let's do this first. Can you take out a VA loan for like a second home or a vacation cabin or home?
No, no, sir. A VA loan has to be appropriated for a primary residence and primary residence only, with the only instance being you can purchase it as a second home if due to military orders.
Okay. Now, can a veteran attain a VA loan to purchase purchase of a property in like a foreign country? Or how about even with like a U.S. territory?
As long as you are living in the United States and using your VA loan. Now, let me clarify this. I don't know how it is in other states and territories, but let's say you are an American citizen buying land in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a territory, and the citizens of Puerto Rico do serve our country too. So maybe you can buy in Puerto Rico, and you might be able to buy it in U.S. Samoa, and maybe in Guam, and maybe in the American Virgin Islands. However, I don't know because they also have different bylaws, and I don't know the real estate in those other areas.
Yeah.
Marcus may know a little bit more, but once again, I know he's.
I can tell you with 100% certainty. I don't know the answer to that question.
That's what I was saying. Mine's more like a shot in the dark because it's possible, but you'd have to check each state, their guidelines.
Yeah, each state is going to have their own
territories too,
guidelines.
And the territories, because even though Puerto Rico is a protectorate, we protect it. They're still their own sovereignty, meaning they still have their own bylaws, even though they fall pretty much guaranteed down to everything we have in our country. You might want to check real estate laws there and their lending laws.
Yeah, because I was looking on military.com, and it says that it has to be located in the United States, its territories or possessions. The latter consists of Puerto Rico. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if it says that, and you can find an answer from there, like somewhere where it shows you that area, that answer, then I guess you could use it in Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico, and any U.S. Virgin Islands, because those are U.S. territories and protectorates or governances.
Yeah. All right. Because we're running out of time, we got about 5 more minutes of questions. Let's see if we got any questions in the chat room. Once again, Spreaker chat is open if you want to ask a question or call into the show by Skyping me at Talking the Night. So let's see. What is a VA guaranteed manufactured home loan?
So essentially, all that is, it's the exact same thing as a VA home loan. The only caveat being the property type in question is a manufactured housing. The only requirement made on them is that it be made what's known as real property at the conversion before closing. So at the time of closing, that property would have to become not only just manufactured housing, but actually true real property, meaning permanently affixed with a foundation on site for the property itself.
Okay. And
correct.
We got another question in the chat. Do the VA loans differ in each state? Or is it just other than like the amount you can receive? But do they differ in any way from like a different state to state?
Well, every state's going to have their own, lending guidelines as far as what they allow and what they don't allow. Again, that kind of question would I'd need to know what state in question to be able to answer that,
Okay, let's
directly.
use California, for example.
Okay.
All right, so I
can't help you out there. My real estate license is only for the state of Texas. Unfortunately,
yeah. Excuse me.
Well, the lending operations are fairly similar from state to state, but where the big question boils down is each state has its own independent laws that govern how that state operates. So, to kind of preface off of what he just said, I'm not licensed to operate in the state of California, but if it boils down to it, I could find someone in that area that could better answer that question.
All right, we're going to get into one more question, and then we'll let you tell people where they can find information about you. But now, looking at like foreclosed homes, does the VA have an inventory of foreclosed homes, and can the VA loan be used to purchase a foreclosed home?
I don't think in my experience, I don't think the VA as a entity of the government have access to properties or knowing where properties are foreclosed, where what you can call in real estate terms a HUD-1 property, because foreclosure doesn't have to go under HUD.
The answer to that question, the easiest answer is no. Reason being, the VA does not hold the mortgage. You have to remember that the VA does not hold the mortgage. The VA holds the guarantee. They guarantee a certain amount of the property protected in the case of foreclosure, the same way that FHA does. Okay. So with that being said, you have to remember that the VA never holds that property. So they wouldn't have a list of foreclosed properties or foreclosed VA properties. And to finish that one out, the VA, you can use a VA to purchase a HUD-1 home or a foreclosed property. The only condition to that is the home has to pass a VA home inspection. And it's very rare that I've ever seen a HUD-1 home that came out that would pass, just because when most people are vacated from their home, they don't typically leave it in the best of conditions.
Yeah, I've seen homes where there was a home in California that the person had their home foreclosed. Of course, this was not through a VA loan, but they got foreclosed and they got kicked out. And they pretty much took out all the copper wiring in the house. It was a mess.
I've seen that. I've seen them take the plumbing out. I've seen, you name it. I've seen it.
All right, so
they typically don't leave those properties in good condition, so they don't pass the VA home inspection. Most real estate agents know that. So whenever you're talking and you tell your real estate agent, "Hey, I'm getting the VA loan for what we're looking at. It's listed right there on your pre-qualification letter." Whenever you give that to your real estate agent, they're not going to show you HUD-1 properties for that reason specifically in most cases. Now, there may be some homes that the real estate agent already knows that, I've walked this property, another showing, the person I showed it to didn't want it, but there's nothing about this property that I walked through that would make me believe that it would not pass.
all right,
And that's one of the few instances I think that it might.
All right, so we're running out of time. I'll give each of you a moment to answer. Where can they find information about you and what you do?
Once again, my name's Farooq Khan. I am a realtor here in the state of Texas. Once again, my license is good for the whole state, for any type of real estate you want, wants and needs. You can find any information on me at http://icon, and it's KHAN, iconsellhomes.com, and iconsselldfw.com, Delta Foxtrot Whiskey, for you veterans out there.
Uh-huh.
Iconsellhomes.com, iconsselldfw.com. That's my Twitter handle as well. And on a side note, I also do a food blog, and it's Icon Cook. So if you like to cook and eat, check out my blog. But other than that, you can reach me out that, or you can always email me at Farooq, FAROOQ, KHAN, at remax.net.
All right. And how about you, Marcus?
My name is Marcus Weber. I'm a loan originator with Southwest Funding. Best way to contact me typically is via phone or email. Phone number is area code 214-729-9939. Email is mweber, that's MWEBER, at southwestfunding.com, and my website is swfunding.com/mweber. And my NMLS ID is 1585138.
All right.
And lastly, I was gonna say my phone number is area code 681-217-3477. And if you wanted to look at my license for real estate, if you just wanted to look it up, it's 0706077. However, nobody's ever asked me that.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on the show, getting into VA home loans. I learned a lot because I've never used my VA loan, never really understood it and everything like that. And I think I understand a lot more now than I did. And definitely I will stay in contact with you guys. Especially once I'm ready to get my own place. So, and also, of course, the listeners here in the chat room want to thank you guys for your service as well as I do.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on. I really enjoyed it.
All right.
I have it as well. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and so for those listening to the show, of course, tomorrow night we're going to be talking with another veteran as we talk about North Texas veterans plus Women Veteran of America with Eva Fulton, and we'll get also into her book. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. I think it's Welcome to My People's Garden. And no, it's not about her growing people. So, with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And thank you guys once again for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you on. And until tomorrow night, I shall see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.